Greetings and welcome to Pure Common Law Trusts. Let's get right down to it. And if everyone can hear me clear, just please give me a heads up in the chat and we'll proceed with the presentation. No state shall pass law impairing the obligation of contracts. That comes from Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution for the United States of America. Pure Common Law Trusts, a reference manual. So what we'll be going over with the introduction, the Pure Common Law Trust, individual, the corporation, trust, the trust indenture, and parties to a trust. Also go over a brief history of trusts and the type of trusts. Let's see here, audio good? Very well, thanks. Yes, sir. And please hit the like if you have arrived. All right. Let me clear that off here. There we go. It's still not off. A second here. There we go. Okay. Statutory versus common law trust, the simple versus complex, domestic versus foreign, revocable versus irrevocable, and other kinds of trusts. And we've been going over these in the trust series here that's on the playlist for the channel, for the trust. Who uses trust? Well, the Kennedy family and the Rockefeller family, they use trust, evidently. Benefits of trust creation: frightening trends, litigation, privacy, estate, and death taxes, and a simple solution to these complex problems. And then we'll have some questions and answers. General questions relating to trust. What is a trust? What right does the pure common law trust have? What does the word trust mean? Why isn't the pure common law trust a trust? What is a pure common law trust? What case law, case holdings define a pure common law trust? If trusts are so good, why doesn't everyone use them? Has the pure common law trust been tested in court? What about an attorney to help set up the pure common law trust? Does a trust have to be recorded? What's the function of the certificate holder? Why doesn't the pure common law trust have beneficiaries? What kind of records do I need to keep? Where do I keep the trust documents? Can the trustees abscond with the trust assets? What are some of the disadvantages of the pure common law trust? Can a pure common law trust be set up as an association with several partners, which of course, as we saw before, might have it classified as a partnership for state statutes and tax purposes? Can a trust be a partner in a partnership? So instead of partnership in place of the trust, can the trust be a partner in a partnership? What is a successor managing director? Can a successor managing director be changed? What happens if no successor managing director has been appointed to the original managing director dies? And the original managing director dies. Can the trustees be changed? When does the trust go into effect? When does the trust terminate? What kinds of names, titles, should I use for my pure common law trust? How does the pure common law trust qualify as a contract? Does the United States Constitution give citizens the right to contract? Questions relating to disadvantages of a pure common law trust. So the first set was for advantages. Now we're going to look at some disadvantages. Pretty short here. What is the main disadvantage of managing a pure common law trust? And then we go on to questions relating to operating a business. Can a trust own and operate a business? Should I get a business license for a pure common law trust when operating a business? If I receive notice from the city or county requesting information or informing me that I do not have a business license. What should I do? What happens if I receive a citation from the city for not having a city business license? If I already have a business license, how do I unvolunteer? How can I have a license and a pure common law trust? What about employees? Can a pure common law trust be used to replace a corporation or limited partnership in doing businesses? What is the technical, legal reason that the pure common law trust has no reporting requirements to the state? What is the main reason I should consider a pure common law trust over a corporation? What is the alternative to a corporation? What are the geographic boundaries where a pure common law trust can conduct business? If a government agent walks into my place of private business seeking information, how should I respond? Can the pure common law trust operate a business? And then we have questions relating to privacy and asset protection. How does the pure common law trust provide privacy? How does the pure common law trust provide asset protection? What does diversification of assets mean? Can a trust be sued? How could a pure common law trust be sued? What if I get sued? What happens to the trust assets? Can creditors of trustees get to the pure common law trust property? What if I should become bankrupt? What if I should get a divorce? What if there's a divorce? How can I protect my personal and family assets from financial disaster? And then we go over to questions relating to pure common law trusts versus corporation. Can a pure common law trust be used to replace a corporation or limited partnership in doing business? My plans are to replace my business corporation with a pure common law trust, thereby operating as a private business, as suggested by Hale versus Henkel. What should I tell my accountant? Oh boy. What is the main reason I should consider a pure common law trust over a corporation? Why then do people use corporations? Why should I, as an entrepreneur, consider a pure common law trust? But what if my employees wanted to stay in the system? How do I handle them? Then we go over questions relating to legality of the pure common law trust. People often ask if the pure common law trust is legal. How should I respond? Oh boy. Then there's going to be questions relating to money and banking. How should I use banks? Can the trust borrow money? Do I have to get a trust identification number, an EIN form? That should be from the Internal Revenue Service. How can I withdraw money from a trust? Can I assign salary or commissions to a trust? Assign. If my employer makes out my paycheck directly to the trust, will that exempt me from taxes? What about credit cards? Can a trust own stock in a corporation? What is co-mingling? What about insurance? Shout out to Flexor Freedoms. He's always looking for mingling. Questions relating to duties of the managing director. To whom is the managing director of a pure common law trust accountable? Can I designate my spouse as a co-managing director? What happens if one or more of the trustees dies? Who should I designate to take over after my death? Questions relating to property. Do individuals have common right laws to the fruits of their labor? Can a property be added to the trust? Can the trust sell property? Do I have to notify the county recorder each time I add property to the trust? Is there a limit on property I must own in order to create a trust? Does all the property I own have to be exchanged into the trust? And can the Internal Revenue Service seize property or bank accounts which are in a trust? Ooh, more questions. Whew. Can I exchange real estate into the trust and then immediately sell the property? Do real estate deeds have to be recorded? If I move to another state, do I have to record the trust there? How do I show in the trust that property has been added, sold, or purchased? How are household goods and personal effects listed? How are items which are used in business listed? And then we have questions relating to transferring and exchanging. Explain the procedure for transferring or exchanging assets into the pure common law trust. How do I exchange such assets so that government registration accurately reflects ownership by the trust rather than by me? How is the equity exchanged into the trust? Is there a way to get the name on the mortgage note changed? Are there any ways to handle these situations? Any other ways? I have exchanged everything I own into several pure common law trusts. What next? And what is fraudulent conveyance? I have a nice series of Amjur on fraudulent conveyance in the Amjur playlist on the channel for further information on that. And then we get on to questions relating to pure common law trust versus living trust. What's the difference between a living trust and a pure common law trust? Does a living trust protect my assets? What are some other differences between a pure common law trust and a living trust? And then we go to questions relating to other types of trust. A question mark there. My friend took some literature on the pure common law trust to an attorney and was told that it was the same as a Massachusetts trust. Is this correct? We went over this before. Massachusetts trust can be called just a common law trust, but also called a business trust. What is a Massachusetts trust? Of course, we went over this in just a few nights ago on the live stream. According to some articles I read, aren't pure common law trust and other pure trusts disastrous for people who put faith in them? Are any income tax advantages available from an offshore structure? Do Nevada corporations provide a significant tax or asset protection benefits? What are offshore annuities? And then we're going to go over to the questions relating to taxes and reporting requirements. Can the pure common law trust be used to eliminate income taxes? Do I have to tell the Internal Revenue Service that I manage a trust? Will the trust make me exempt from taxes? Do I have to file a trust tax return? What are the technical reasons why, unlike a corporation, the pure common law trust has no reporting requirement to the state? If a government agent walks into my place of private business, operate as a pure common law trust, seeking information, how should I respond? Does the trust exempt me from the property and sales tax? What if the Internal Revenue Service says that an individual is personally responsible for taxes due on trust income? And then we go on to the common law. The common law. And then we'll go over to civil law and a brief history of common law, the difference between common law and merchant law. And the United States Constitution is based in common law. We'll go over types of trusts and a comparison of trusts. We'll go over why create a pure common law trust. Of course, after answering all those other questions, we might have a pretty good idea. Second here. Just checking to see if the chat's filtering through, because I was having difficulties, but it seems like everything's good. We'll be looking over the origin and basis for development of the pure common law trust, what a pure common law trust is, the most basic aspects of a pure common law trust, the pure common law trust in more detail, common law jurisdiction versus statutory jurisdiction, and then without prejudice, case holdings on jurisdiction, what makes the pure common law trust such a powerful instrument, creating a pure common law trust. We'll go over the solution to the basic problem that prevents successful estate planning, civil trust, pure trust. Avoid the grantor trust definition. The trust must be irrevocable. We'll go over the trust contract and how you can tell if you're dealing with a pure common law trust. Limitation of personal and business liability. Diversification of assets. Isolation of assets and illustration. And privacy of operation, and then we'll have a summary of all that. Next will be the power of the contract. The pure common law trust solves problems. What is a pure common law trust? The right to contract, a landmark decision. And then we'll go over the pure common law trust can operate a business. We're answering some of those questions here, it seems. 5 factors that make the pure common law trust powerful. The sanctity of contract, the privacy of contracts, the famous Dartmouth College case, contract protected by the Constitution, contract is immune from government interference, and notes on the Dartmouth case. The Supreme Court. They stacked the Supreme Court? No. Court jurisdiction and the liability of judges. We'll go over the nature of contracts, formal or simple, executed or executory contracts, express or implied, distinction between law and fact, quasi-contract, bilateral and unilateral contracts, and voidable contract. Go over the definition of a contract, agreement, offer, acceptance, mutuality and consideration, competent parties, and legal object. We'll go over the social contract, duress, menace, fraud, undue influence, mistake, statute of frauds, and conclusion. And then the right to contract, corporations and constitutional rights, the pure common law trust, overcoming ignorance and fear, probate costs and death taxes, ease of use and affordability. And then we're going to be going over the privacy and asset protection. Government is institutionalizing stealing. Sovereign individual paradigm versus feudal paradigm. An important Supreme Court case. The sanctity of records. Then we have a bunch of cases here and a conclusion. Notice here we have Miranda and Hale versus Henkel. Dartmouth College versus Woodward, and questions and answers regarding rights. Is the Constitution of the United States the supreme law? Must the state constitutions and state laws conform and comply with the Constitution of the United States? Is admiralty and maritime jurisdiction subject to common law remedy? Must the departments, agencies, and agents of the 3 branches of government confine their actions under Constitution of the United States of America? Is the Constitution of the United States superior to administrative laws, rules, and regulations? What is the difference between an Article 1 and an Article 3 court? Does the Supreme Court of the United States have superintendency over both Article 1 and Article 3 courts? What are the duties of court judges? Can the state governments grant or take away an individual's rights? Do individuals have rights to labor? Then we have the jurisdictional challenge. Power messages, dealing with bureaucrats, what bureaucrats can do, strategic considerations, definitions, case citations, and conclusions. Then we have the IRS perspective. Internal Revenue Service targets abusive trust agreements. What is meant by abusive trust? The IRS example of abusive trust arrangements. Who ends up paying the tax? In conclusion. Legal objections, significant cases, Internal Revenue Service tax court decisions, and then getting ready. We'll go over where to begin, assets inventory, the people involved with the trust. We're going to identify the settlor grantor, trustees, beneficiaries, trust officers. We'll have some flow charts and tables to go over, the organizational trust, the management trust, the holding trust, and implementing a pure common law trust. Doubt what the bureaucrats say. Be willing to make changes. Remember the contract. Remember that this is a business. Then you're going to be dealing with agencies, your privacy and value, and your asset liability. And then you'll be rewarded with some step-by-step procedures. Filing the trust. 4 important points. Filing requirements. Federal filing, state, county, and city. Notarizing taxpayer identification number. Now, objections to filing. No taxable income, out of sight, out of mind, and no clearly defined statutes. So those are some good objections there. Now we have some forms for filing. Audit proof. And acquiring trust property. Transferring assets. Selling property to a trust. Exchanging property into the trust. Assigning property to a trust. Gifting property to a trust. Legal versus equitable title to property held in trust and certificates. Then there's transferring property, the goal. No more personal tax returns. Cease to exist. Organizing the process of transferring assets, the proposal to exchange, bill of sale, bill of exchange, trust minutes, description of property, letters of introduction, letters of appointment, quit claim deeds, liens, mortgages, and business property. So we'll go over the process of transferring all those different assets right there. Asset inventory, equipment, furnishings, other goods, and moving assets into a trust. Dealing with the bureaucrats, capital assets. Then we have retitling mortgage property, the benefits of transferring real estate, unmortgaged property, and then we'll go over some of the details for mortgage property. The objective, adding the trust onto the mortgage, restructuring the mortgage, the clincher, and exchanging your property to the trust. Go over the trust deed, important points, trust officers, board of trustees, and the trust officers. And then opening a bank account, we'll have some suggestions, addresses, names, and lastly. And then, oh boy, we have additional trusts if that wasn't enough. Families and partners, surviving family inheritance, and then beneficiaries, families. Beware of wolves, by the way. We'll have that in here too, and professional trust assistants. Then we'll have some miscellany, professionals undoing corporations, dismantling the corporations, patents, copyrights, etc., and cautions. No filing requirements. Beneficiaries or no beneficiaries. Paying the trust officers. Then we have commissions, insurance, IRAs, etc. Personal bank accounts, arm's length. Keep your documents in a safe place. And money matters. Taxes, the plans, costs, savings, accounting, knowing your numbers. Attitude in taxes, changing attitudes and habits. Credit application, saving money. And be skeptical. Be cautious of all these characters. Experts, enrolled agents, and opinion experts. And step up the basis of property. We're going to look at what some have done. We're going to look at business trust status, taxes, declaration of trusts, and we'll have some schedules A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, and citations. We have here pure equity irrevocable trust is not an abuse of trust. A constitutionally valid trust cannot be abusive. Description of family trust. Definition of an adverse party. Citations for those and elements that can make trust income non-taxable to the grantor. Charitable contributions, and then the minutes. Persons present, businesses discussed. After discussion, it was mutually agreed that the following action was taken as a result of the agreement. Then we have Section 4, Trustees and settlers, trustee appointment, general manager appointment, executive secretary's acceptance, and trustee resignation. We'll have a letter of introduction, acceptance of management services, business management acceptance, hiring of company treasurer, treasurer acceptance, and minutes forms of person's presence, business discussed. After discussions, it was mutually agreed that following action is taken as a result of the agreement. So you have your action items, and there would be no further business come before the officers' meeting was adjourned. There's your minutes. That's a form. Minutes of the settler, minutes of the exchanger, minutes of lease. Again, same type of format. Minutes of general manager. Excellent. And then proposals to exchange, independent contractor agreement, purpose agreement, services to be rendered, compensation to contractor, quality control, method performance, expenses and equipment, termination, renewal, and performance periods. And then we have affidavits of trust, the management agreement, services, procedure, duration, termination, powers, acts, and omissions of the manager, managing fees, miscellaneous, effective date assignment, and governing law. And then we have a property management agreement, independent contractor agreement, management agreement, and transfer certificates, optional and subject to change at holder's discretion. And then we have some more on the mortgage, power of attorney, quitclaim deed, assignment of wages, assigning acknowledgement, assignment, and then Schedule A for capital equipment, Schedule A for initial corpus, that's a description of assets placed in trust, and the bill of sales, bill of exchange, proposal to lease equipment, notification respecting, proposal to exchange, another proposal to exchange, and then your minutes, description of property, existing liens against property. Ooh, a bill of exchange in here, bill of sales, bill of certificates, and government forms, constructive notice. So we got a lot in this here to unpack. All right, so before we go any further, let's catch up with the chat here. All right, Original Gangsta, welcome, greetings, appreciate you being here and everyone else in the audience. So what we're going to do here is go over this briefly here, and I think we're going to break this down to some other live streams because just that introduction alone took up some time. But it's always best to go over the table of contents so that we know where we're headed for the rest of the presentation. That being said, let's continue here. Oops. All right, there we go. So we're going to go over types of trust first. This is a good place to start, and that'll give me a chance also to skim through and find out what parts might be just redundant or superfluous to the intentions of the broadcasts on this channel. Okay, a trust is created anytime a person places some kind of property into the control of another person for safekeeping. The property may be anything, such as real estate, money, or even intellectual property. A comparison of trusts. There is literally a different kind of trust for every imaginable legal purpose. This chapter is not an in-depth discussion into all the various trusts, but cover a few of them and help you give a better understanding of the topic. And before we go any further, this broadcast is strictly for educational entertainment purposes, not to be construed for any professional, personal, legal, lawful, financial, or estate planning, retirement advice, or tax advice for sure. It's just to be used for the purposes of this YouTube broadcast and on this channel for entertainment, educational use only. Don't do this at home. All right, let's continue. In attempting to compare trusts, it will help to first break down the different types of trusts into broad categories based upon their legal status and construction, and further define them as to their purpose. We must understand at the outset that there are really only two broad types of trust. We went over these previously: statutory and common law or contract. We have already stated statutory trust are those that arise through some government privilege. We define these trusts in precise terms, restricted by statute, bound by procedural structure, and arise by privilege. If this type of trust fails to follow the provided guidelines, it loses its legal strength, and it is easily broken in court. Of course, many attorneys draft their statutory trusts so that they become susceptible to failure in court. Sometimes they do this to assure future income, but mostly it is done because their client may someday want to change their mind. This is why the revocable trusts are so common. The grantor may revoke these so-called living trusts anytime they wish. Because of that, so can the Internal Revenue Service. The common law trust is sometimes known as contract trust. These trusts arise by right. These common law or contract trusts are irrevocable and gain their authority from the protection afforded any other contract. Their strength lies in the protection of Article 1, Section 10 of the United States Constitution, which provides that no state may impair the obligations of a contract. The Supreme Court ruled in Berry v. McCourt that a pure trust is not so much a trust as a contractual relationship in trust form. For most purposes, the pure common law trust is superior to other kind of trust because of its flexibility and irrevocability. It is known as a pure trust because it preserves the true intent of a trust, which is the actual separation of direct ownership from the previous owner to the trust. It has several other names by which it is commonly known, such as some of the following. Okay, so this is what we went over previously: Business Trust, Massachusetts Trust, and now we have a new name, the Pure Trust, Pure Common Law Trust, and Trust Estates as Business Company. So we use the term Pure Common Law Trust when referring to our trust documents, which is an irrevocable common law trust contract. Oh, here we go. Constitutional trust, irrevocable pure business trust, and unincorporated business organization. Trust estates as business company. So these are your business trust, constitutional trust. All these fall under pure common law trust. The last designation is believed by some not to be a true trust at all, but merely a business organization arising by contract differing from the business trust in that the holders of the certificates do not have a right to distribution, and the trustee makes discretionary decisions regarding distribution solely on the best interests of the business. However, in the light of the Supreme Court's definition of a pure trust, it's safe to include the unincorporated business organization with the rest of the terms for an irrevocable business trust. And we went over the details of that in the previous stream, over that because of the fact if it's structured properly and it can't be construed into that realm of having that type of interest that would void it being a pure trust, then you don't have that so much to worry about, it would seem. An alimony trust is a statutory trust that secures the obligation of a husband to support his wife after divorce. An annuity trust is a statutory trust, where the trustee is required to distribute a certain sum annually to beneficiaries for a specific time, and thereafter transfer the remainder to charity or retain it for later charitable purposes. The sum distributed to the beneficiaries must not be less than 5% of the initial fair market value of the property transferred to trust. If the annuity trust fails to conform to the Internal Revenue Code Section 664, then it becomes disqualified. So the sum distributed to beneficiaries must not be less than 5% of the initial fair market value of the property transferred to the trust for it to be an annuity trust. Charitable remainder trust is a special type of statutory annuity trust in which the donors have given cash or other property to be received by them from the trust as income for their joint lives. They receive an income tax deduction based upon the ages at the time the gift was made and the percentage of trust assets paid as income to the donors. At the second death, charitable beneficiary receives the balance of the trust property. Yikes. An insurance trust owns an insurance policy and holds the proceeds. Normally, those whose assets exceed $600,000 when combined with their life insurance proceeds can use this type of trust to minimize federal estate taxes and probate. The beneficiaries receive the distribution from the policy. Wow. Holds the proceeds. So an offshore trust is a trust that moves assets offshore. The asset and trust management are usually located in countries such as British Virgin Islands, Western Samoa, Liechtenstein, or the Turks and Caicos Islands, where certain tax treaties exist between them and the United States. How convenient. Such trusts are often touted as tax havens. However, this may not be correct, and the IRS still requires reporting of most assets. A simple trust is one in which the income is required to be distributed to the beneficiaries regularly and currently. The simple trust does not provide that any amounts are to be used for charitable purposes, and it will not distribute capital or funds allocated to the corpus of the trust. A complex trust is any other type of trust, which does not qualify as a simple trust. So, simple trust is required to be distributed to the beneficiaries regularly and currently. It does not provide for amounts to be used for charitable purposes and will not distribute capital or funds allocated to the corpus. But a complex trust is any other type. So trustees have a great deal more discretionary power in making determinations regarding distributions of both income and capital to beneficiaries. The trustees have discretion as to whether to distribute the amount they want distributed based upon what is in the best interest of the trust. One advantage of a complex trust for the businessman is that he may make a determination in advance of exactly how much taxes they will pay in a particular year. The trustee businessman does this by determining in advance the amount of taxes they desire to pay. Oh, nice. And at the end of the year, they distribute all money, save that. Where'd it go? Oh, save that. Yep, I guess that's it. At the end of the year, they distribute all money, save that amount. All right, why create a pure common law trust? So now that we've looked at this distinction of a variety of trusts, alimony trust, annuity trust, different types of annuity trust, charitable remainder trust, insurance trust, offshore trust, simple trust, and complex trust. And most of these here are statutory. So why create a pure common law trust? A trust in relation to real and personal property, or either of them, may be created for any purpose or purposes for which a contract may be made. That means you can create and operate a pure common law trust for any reason you want. Remember that it is strictly a contract, an agreement between the trustees and the manager. It draws its authority from the unlimited right to contract guaranteed by the United States Constitution. It is not subject to statutory regulation. A pure common law trust can own a business. A pure common law trust can also own property such as a house, vehicle, or rental property. You can transfer, exchange, ownership of your property to a pure common law trust, and the trust can manage that property and other investments that you intend to leave to each of your children or siblings, good friends, remote relatives, etc. A pure common law trust can conduct business activities you don't want intermixed with your profession. A pure common law trust can do just about anything you can think of. Can it slice bread, though? All right, origin and basis for development. Before we go on here, we're going to take a brief intermission into the chat. Good to hear you're getting ready to start a trust, so this is good. We might not make it through the whole handbook this time, but we'll do a follow-up one shortly, and we'll get to the meat of it. We have some good examples in here, which would help facilitate what you're doing, I'm sure, if you are doing it yourself. All right, let's proceed from here. Double check that this thing here is refreshed. Yes, sir. Okay. Hostility to and unreasonable regulations of corporations also have had their part in the development of the pure trust. Accepted statutes may restrict the use of a trust to specified objects, and accepted statutes may permit corporations to engage in certain types of busyness. A pure trust may be organized to engage in any business in which individuals or corporations may lawfully engage. What is a pure common law trust? In this manual, the term pure common law trust refers to a particular form of common law contract that creates a trust, also called a pure trust. Definition of a trust: property held by one person for the benefit of another. The pure common law trust is a particular kind of trust. It is based on the United States Constitution, common law, and extensive cases, including many Supreme Court decisions. The pure common law trust provides these basic benefits: privacy, asset protection, the ability to engage in any lawful business anywhere, and diversification of assets and activities into separate, watertight compartments. Oh, there's more. Rendering yourself virtually judgment-proof. Elimination of probate and estate taxes. Reduction of elimination of attorneys and accountants' fees. Reduction of other taxes. Reduction of time wasting. Bureaucratic reporting. All right, now we go over the most basic aspects of the pure common law trust. Here's figure 1, the exchange of property. All right, first, you transfer your property to the trust. This sweet card, nice. In exchange for certificate of capital units. So, that's all I get? All right, a pure common law trust can have special characteristics. The pure common law trust is a contractual agreement. It contains an offer and an acceptance between competent parties of legal age, the creator and the exchanger, who enter into the basic contract that creates the trust. They also appoint trustees. Consideration is paid between the creator and the exchanger. The first part of the pure common law trust consists of 8 stipulations. These stipulations provide the basic legal foundation of the contract based on the United States Constitution, common law, and certain court decisions. Property can be exchanged into the trust in return for certificates of capital units. Though capital units are not shares, they are similar to shares. The pure common law trust is irrevocable. The pure common law trust has a legal object or purpose. The pure common law trust has a termination date, but is renewable. The pure common law trust involves no grantors and no gifts. Ooh. Now we're on to the power of the contract. We may start up on this one for the next one because we're approaching that hour mark. Depends how many people are in the chat if we should continue a little bit more. And then we'll continue on this on the next episode. We'll give it a few seconds here. We'll check in here through the chat. Please hit the like too if you are enjoying the presentation and want to keep this going on. Hoping there's still people out there. It looks like it shows there's some people in the room, so we'll just keep going for now and finish up the hour. Power of the contract. My dearest Kay, I have taken my life in order to provide capital for you. The arsonist liens which have been taken against our property illegally by a runaway agency of our government have dried up all the sources of credit for us. So I've made the only decision I can. It's purely a business decision. You will find my body on the north side of the house, Alex. Jeez. When Kay Council of High Point, North Carolina came home that night on June 1988, this was not what she needed. After 9 years of battling with the Internal Revenue Service over a disallowed tax shelter, fighting over $300,000 in taxes, interest, and penalties, all their financial resources exhausted, Alex Council made a business decision to provide his wife with the funds needed to continue the battle. He took his life. He provided $250,000 to continue the fight. Mrs. Council eventually won a court ruling that she and her husband owed the Internal Revenue Service nothing. Mrs. Counsel, 48, said, "I was cheated of growing old with a man I love." The decision that Alex Counsel made was his own. From where I sit, it was a bad decision. But then again, I am not Alex Counsel, and I am not in the situation he was in. But the tragic part of the whole situation is that he should have never been put in that situation either. The pure common law trust solves problems. If the councils had been using a pure common law trust, these problems all could have been avoided. The business they managed could have been owned by a pure common law trust. The home they lived in could have been owned and protected by a pure common law trust. They could have received a modest salary on which to pay taxes, and they would have had no need for the tax shelter that caused their problem. Unfortunately, this is not an isolated case. Many people have to make decisions every day about how to protect the assets they have worked so hard to accumulate. The information you're reading will tell you how to avoid the pitfalls associated with asset accumulation and preservation, and will give you details on one of the greatest asset protection and privacy vehicles available today, the Pure Common Law Trust. Once you read through this information, you will be responsible for it. That means you will have to make a decision about what to do with it. And on that one, I think we're going to call it for the night. Let's check up on the chat. Yep, next time we'll do it. Well, this was a good note to end on, and I hope everyone catches the gist of this, that there are a lot of problems that could be solved if people just had the knowledge about the power of trust. And the constitutionally protected trust, such as a pure common law trust, is a very important remedy that we should be aware of. So let's see here in the chat if we have anyone else that has anything good to contribute. I think we've really gone through a lot tonight because that table of contents was grueling and very detailed. And I think it really set the stage of what we're going to be covering in the future episodes. So with that, I would like to thank everyone for coming in tonight. It's been quite interesting here, learning about more distinctions about this Massachusetts Common Law Business Trust, also called the Pure Common Law Trust. And I hope that everyone learned as much tonight as I did and continue down this journey about learning about the trusts that we have here on this land to protect our assets and more for not just us, but our posterity. And on that, I'd like to say good night to you all, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace out.